Then welcome everybody. I'm Ellen Poppett, the Associate Director of the Illinois Heartland Library System, to our September 3rd Thursday. We've really enjoyed planning these scheduled events for you, and we're happy you're here today to learn more about broadband in Illinois. We know how important oh my gosh, over the last 18 months, how important good connectivity is to our patrons and to our communities. Anna's done a great job of putting this program together today, so I will turn the program over to Anna Yackel, our membership coordinator, to introduce our speaker. Thanks, Anna.
Thanks, Ellen. I don't know if those of you who are among us today, if you remember when we had Dr. Merritt from the Illinois Institute of Rural Affairs, but I remember during that presentation, he said, somebody you really have to get as a speaker is Matt Schmit from the Office of Broadband. And I thought, oh, that's great, because, you know, we are all interested in broadband and we all feel like we deserve much better broadband than we currently have, or connectivity generally. And so I contacted Mr. Schmit, and he was very gracious in agreeing to do a presentation for us today. Let me tell you a little bit about his background. He's originally from Minnesota, where he was a state senator, and one of the areas of specialty for him was rural affairs. And since 20% of Illinois is urban or metropolitan kind of larger cities, and 80% is rural, I think he's probably a good fit for our state and for the mission laid before him to look at the broadband issues for our state. And the fact that the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity realizes the value of this and has made it so that they've created an office indicates that they realize that broadband is a big component of all of our economic health and development and opportunities for all of us. And libraries have a big part in that. So with that being said, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Schmit, and he's going to give us an overview of his office and what he hopes to accomplish here. So over to you, Matt. Oh, you're muted still.
All right, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
No background, great. All right. So thanks for the introduction and the invitation. It's great to join you today. This is a topic of passion, so I can get into the weeds real quick, and I get pretty excited about this. I'm just thrilled to see the momentum that's created in Illinois. Governor Pritzker's leadership, the General Assembly, the investments that have been made, and that was enough to get a native Minnesotan, a former legislator, recruited to move a little bit south. I've really enjoyed the longer springs and the longer falls, the longer summers. But the work that we're doing in Illinois is just so incredibly meaningful. And so that's why I never hesitated a chance to have a great conversation with a group of stakeholders such as yours. And I really look forward to kind of sharing what we're up to, hopefully inspiring some opportunities for collaboration, and certainly filling in the map and connectivity and addressing the full aspect of the digital divide. And so before I launch in, I'll just say a little bit about my background. I do hail from Minnesota. If you know Red Wing shoes or Red Wing pottery, that's my hometown, southeastern part of the state, a bluff country with the Mississippi River. It's probably most analogous to the northwestern part of Illinois, maybe the Galena area. And so there are pockets of the state that really do remind me of home, and certainly working on issues such as broadband and connecting with libraries and other stakeholders, that's what makes this truly meaningful to me. And that's kind of the great kind of connector, if you will, from my life as a rural legislator back in Minnesota to what we're doing here in Illinois, trying to stand up what we hope to be the standard in terms of Office of Broadband, grant programs, and a holistic approach to broadband. And that's a theme that we'll really hammer home here today. We have been for the last 2 years, a holistic approach to broadband, focusing on access, in infrastructure investments, looking at adoption and affordability. And then finally, once you have it and once you're using it, getting the full return on the investment that you're making with utilization. And so I'll just touch upon some of these themes today, tell you a little bit about what we're up to with our Office of Broadband and our programming. And then at any stage in the game, don't hesitate to jump in with any questions, comments. I want to keep everybody awake here on a Thursday morning and certainly make this as useful to you as possible. So we do have some slides, and I'll just give you a heads up. My computer has been crashing. And so I am not immune from the trials and tribulations of the digital divide. I've got good connectivity, but I don't have a reliable computing device right now. And so if the slides crash, I'll just jump over on my phone, and hopefully it'll be a seamless transition, but just a heads up. So moving into the slide deck here, I'm going to start out by giving you a quick overview of what I'd like to kind of talk about today. Of course, our infrastructure grant program, Connect Illinois, our increasingly robust and complementary digital equity programming, also some initiatives that we've undertaken with stakeholders and key collaborators outside of our office. We've got a big investment in broadband access mapping that we want to make available to stakeholders around the state. And so we'll spend a little bit of time talking about that. And then also maybe a discussion about new initiatives or ways we can collaborate moving forward. And so at any rate, and at any point in our time together, don't hesitate to chime in. I just want to make this as interactive and meaningful as we can. And so with that said, I never pass on an opportunity to point folks to our Connect Illinois website. This started as nothing 2 years ago when we launched our Office of Broadband, and we're slowly but surely filling in more information about broadband, what we're up to in Illinois, and resources that are available to folks around the state. And so you can see on the right-hand side, there's that vertical menu that gets longer and longer. It seems like every week with the stuff that we're doing, but I would check this out, and I'll throw the link in the chat box here shortly. But as you start to scroll down there, you'll see an opportunity for signing up for our newsletter. You'll also see information regarding federal funding opportunities. We just gave a presentation on this last week, so that's going to be updated here this week. We've got more information about low-income broadband and adoption assistance, and not to mention our state strategic plan. So a lot of good information there. But if you scroll down a little bit further, you'll see the tab for maps, and in particular our Wi-Fi hotspot map. And so I just want to spend a quick second on this because this is just the reality for so many Illinoisans, and certainly for library patrons, whether they're inside your library doors during normal office hours or gathered around the hotspot outside, even in the depth of winter or late at night, doing homework, accessing the internet for whatever reason they need to be productive and stay connected. And so it's sad to me that in the year 2021, this is the last best option for a lot of Illinoisans. But when you look at our understanding of how many households lack affordable, high quality broadband, over 3,000 in Illinois, and how many of our households lack computing devices, over 1 million, based upon American Community Survey data. Wi-Fi hotspots may be the best option for a lot of folks in the short term. And so this is something that we don't necessarily want to invest a lot of our capital dollars in, because we're looking at long-term scalable solutions that are going to serve our communities for decades into the future. But this is certainly something that we acknowledge is a stopgap, and we certainly want to make investments in this where we can. And so during the height of the pandemic back in March and April of 2020, we had an interagency collaboration, including the libraries, Board of Higher Education, our Department of Technology and DeWitt, and also our schools, and I think I mentioned higher ed, in tracking where broadband Wi-Fi hotspots were located in the state, putting them in a map and sharing that with the general public as a last-ditch attempt to get folks connectivity where they needed it, for remote learning, working from home, looking for benefits or jobs, or just staying connected. And so this is exciting because it's been recognized as a finalist for a national award by the State Association, the National Association of State and County Information Officers. And in October, they will be selecting one finalist for an award in interagency collaboration in the pursuit of connectivity. And so this is something that we're very proud of the work, and we see folks going to this site every day. I think 20 to 30 people daily visit this site. And that doesn't seem like a lot, but over the course of a week, a month, a year, a lot of folks are looking at where to access public Wi-Fi. And so I'll just say this real quickly. If you have any spots on here as you check this out and zoom in that you would like to see added to this map, we'll be happy to share a link to a survey that you can fill out, and your location will be added to the map as well. And again, in the year 2021, it's a sad reality that so many Illinoisans are relying upon public Wi-Fi, but it's something that we need to track, invest in, and make sure folks have access to it as a stopgap until all homes are served with broadband. And that kind of brings us to our goals here in Illinois. Back in 2019 and 2020, when we launched our program, a $400 million investment broadband access, we put together that state strategic plan. And I'm not going to run through that plan with you because it gets a little detailed in some areas, but the point is we set goals for ourselves. And our goals are pretty simple. We want to have all homes, businesses, community anchor institutions, including libraries, have access to fully scalable broadband connectivity. And we want to place in the top 3 in states for access to broadband. And so we've got goals, we've got funding, and now we are focused on getting the job done. And so the recognition is that the goalposts are moving and that other states are making investments and that Illinois wants to be a top 3 state. And so we're not operating in a vacuum. We're looking around at what others are doing, but we're also setting the standard for how to do this best. And so I hope that in the coming years, when the federal and state broadband dollars have been invested, we'll look back and say we made wise use of those dollars for meeting our goals and extending critical connectivity, again, throughout the state, ubiquitous, universal access everywhere. And so this brings us back to our Connect Illinois website here. If you scroll down even further, you'll go past our digital equity programming and then our broadband grants. Those 2 tabs include a lot of information about specific programs that we offer. And I'll get into some of that right now. And so high level overview, we kind of divide our programming into 2 buckets, infrastructure and digital equity. The infrastructure grant program that we have out right now is our Connect Illinois broadband grant program. We're looking to develop some complementary infrastructure programs moving forward, but this is the one that we're using right now to work with communities and providers and partnerships and cooperatives around the state to build out networks to fill in our map. The second bucket here, a digital equity programming and collaboration, has 4 key components to it right now. Our Illinois Connected Communities program for community planning and capacity building, our Broadband Ready program that's focused on regional engagement for identifying best practices and integrating programming, our Connect Illinois Computer Equity Network that focuses on sourcing used computers, refurbishing them, and redistributing them to those to that million+ households around Illinois that lack computers at home. And then finally, we have a collaborative working arrangement with Heartland Forward on emergency broadband benefit affordability, awareness, and also the introduction of some boots on the ground in Illinois, folks to help at the community level with access, adoption, and utilization. And so I'll spend some time getting into the weeds a little bit on each one of those programs. But again, at any stage in the game, if there's a question or if you'd like me to elaborate on something, just let me know. And so right here we have our round 1 and round 2. Essentially, these are the projects that we are funding in the Connect Illinois grant program. We have not publicly announced the round 2 projects yet, and so they're whited out. But you can see right here, we've got a great geographic balance around the state, north to south, projects of significance. And so last June of 2020, we announced our initial $50 million going out to projects around the state. Since our program is a matching grant program, we try to turn every dollar of state funding into at least $2 of overall investment. And you can see we had almost 40 applications. We ended up funding 28 projects. We had strong cross-section of providers, whether they're internet service providers that focus on fiber to the home, whether they're traditional cable companies or telcos or rural cooperatives or even local governments. And so that's what's great about our grant program is we're really open to that kind of investment. As long as you've got the chops to do the work and you'd like to partner with the state to get it done, we want to hear from you. And so round 2 has not been announced yet. I'll just say that we had $25 million in requests. We anticipate approximately 15,000 new connections or improved connections through the dollars that are going to be announced in the coming weeks. And again, we're really excited. We had an application from every one of our 10 economic development regions in Illinois, which really speaks to the statewide appeal of the program. Word is getting out and we're getting interest from all corners of the state and everywhere in between. And so there's a lot of time that could be spent on that map, but I'll just focus on round 3, our next funding round that's coming up. This is where we see a big infusion of federal dollars and where we accelerate our investments. We have $350 million that we'll be announcing on the table. And instead of kind of having arbitrary deadlines for making decisions, we're going to accept applications on a rolling basis, go through our merit review process, and make awards, again, on a rolling basis. My goal is that we're able to turn around grant awards within 4 to 6 weeks of receiving an application. And so we're putting the pressure on ourselves to be really effective and efficient. And I'm hoping that leads to the quick deployment of broadband around the state. Again, this is for network expansion at the local community level. We can work with broadband providers. We can work with local governments. We can work with rural cooperatives, or else other coalitions or partnerships that are formed, including our anchor institutions, to build. And so I'm kind of throwing around a little bit. The point is, our program is designed to be community oriented. We want that community voice, that community vision incorporated in all of our Connect Illinois infrastructure grant applications. And that really means we want to hear from our schools, our libraries, our local leaders, our civic organizations. We want this to be a community-led endeavor. And so I hope that inspires folks to really lean into this and be asking their community leaders or others about what's the state of broadband in our neighborhood and what can we do to improve it if improvement's needed. And so that transitions us to a little bit of our digital equity programming, our Illinois Connected Communities program. And this is one that I'm really excited about because it's so important for local planning and capacity building efforts to take place ahead of investments. And so we have in Illinois the luxury of a large state matching grant program. We have additional federal dollars coming down the pike. And now we are investing in that kind of community engagement to prepare our sources. And so we ran earlier this summer. Round 2 cohort is getting started this in community planning and capacity building around broadband. We look to have a round 3 notice of funding opportunity specific to this year-long engagement over community planning and capacity building opening up in the months ahead. And so the point here is we really value that community engagement, and we're setting up programming to help make it happen. And so if you're not aware of the Connected Communities program, I'd really encourage you to learn a little bit about it. And I think with all of our programming, the extent to which libraries are involved, because you're on the divide, it's so important for your voice to be heard and be part of this. And I've seen, whether it's in our Connected Communities program or our Connect Illinois Capital program, library-led initiatives can be really, really successful just because you see so many aspects of that digital divide: access, adoption, and use. And so I can come back to this, but that Connected Communities program is really important, near and dear to our heart. Here's just a map of round 1 and round 2. You can see, again, pretty good geographic balance here. The green stars are our Connect Illinois infrastructure program from round 1. And then we also have in yellow our proposed, our recently announced round 2 Connected Community cohort. And then in blue, we have our round 1 Connected Community cohort. And so again, we look to double down on this and see more and more communities, whether they're neighborhoods in Chicago, counties throughout the state, or individual communities, cities or villages that want to lean into this. We're really interested in working with folks. And what we look to do is have what we call kind of a broadband steering committee set up at the community level that reflects a representative cross-section of voices from the community. Your local leaders, your libraries, healthcare, education, community economic development. Those voices and others are really valuable to establishing a holistic representative approach to broadband. And so that's what we try to inspire. So that brings us to another program we have, the Broadband READY program. READY stands for Regional Engagement for Adoption and Digital Equity. I know I'm taking a liberty with that Y, just bear with me here. It was just too close, I had to do it. But the whole idea here is to take a step out and look at the issues of broadband access, adoption, utilization from a regional level in Illinois. If you look at things from a statewide level, it can be too big to focus. Statewide engagement can be difficult at times, but also community-specific engagement oftentimes can get too specific and miss out on a lot of folks in between. And so we felt as though establishing a layer of engagement at the regional level, working with our libraries, in many cases, and our institutions of higher education, our regional planning councils, would really put our regions and the communities within those regions in a position to better understand the resources that are available to them, help integrate state and non-state programming, and also help us take important steps at identifying best practices, because we've got an Office of Broadband that's pretty lean. Because of the pandemic, I haven't been able to do a regular statewide listening tour and get around and see the stories come to life. And so we're really relying upon folks to help us identify those best practices that can be replicated or scaled up or light shown on, so that we're able to learn what we can from what's working. And again, we have up to $50,000 available per region. Our first cohort is wrapping up work this fall. That includes, is at the map to the right here, the Northern State Line region, the Southern region, the Southeast region, and also the East Central region. So 4 of the 10 economic development regions in Illinois are already participating in this program, and we look forward to engaging the remaining 6 during our second cohort that likely will begin in January. And again, a notice of funding opportunity for this program is open through October 3rd. We have a webinar scheduled tomorrow with University of Illinois Extension that's going to get into the details on the READY program. If anybody's interested in learning more specifically about the program and the application process. But I would just say this, regardless of where you live, this is a program that we look to have legs and continue in the years ahead, whether it's for identifying best practices, integrating programming, or helping us with data. And so if you're in one of the 6 regions that's not currently engaged, you might want to think about working with any of the organizations I mentioned at the front end here to put forward an application by October 3rd. And if you're in one of the 4 regions that are currently working on this, now is not too late to engage. Feel free to let me know, and I'd be happy to make some introductions. Otherwise, again, this is a program that we can get into the weeds, but it's really, really important for an effective Office of Broadband and state broadband effort that we're thinking, planning, and engaging on the regional level. And so that brings us to our Broadband Ready digital indicator dashboard. And so this is kind of the beta version. This is something I've put together myself on kind of nights and weekends here over the summer. I didn't put that much time into it, and it probably shows. But the whole idea is we wanted to create a tool along the lines of data visualization that brought to life a lot of the metrics and the indicators that we were tracking. And so one of the things that we're asking our READY participants in regions to do is to help us create one of these indicator dashboards at the regional level. So instead of looking at statewide data, we can look at regional data. And I could spend a lot of time getting into this. I won't, unless there are questions and we can come back to it. But the whole idea with this tool is that it's designed to be interactive. So if you want to look at digital demographics and learn more about the homework gap, essentially households with children in school that do not have access to the internet or an at-home computing device, you can click on this and learn a lot more about it. Same for the senior gap, or what we call digital distress, the households in Illinois where either you don't have a computer or you don't have access to the internet, can be pretty significant in some areas. And so we also have the access and availability column here that talks about the level of need in terms of served, unserved, or underserved areas of the state. You can see a divide here in terms of rural communities lacking access. Over a quarter of our rural households don't have access to the internet at 100 megabit per second download, 20 megabit per second upload. And that is kind of a threshold established by the Federal Communications Commission that would allow for multiple users to do two-way live video conferencing like we're doing right now. At the 25/3 level, you can have one person do that, maybe one student doing remote learning at a time, or one adult working from home. You really need to have higher bandwidth. And so we're tracking that. And then again, you can go across this dashboard, adoption and affordability, the share of how people access the internet based upon technology, and this utilization. This is where we want to track best practices. So what's happening in telehealth, one-to-one initiatives and remote learning, and likewise, at the bottom, our program impact. We're just getting started with a lot of our work, so we're not sharing those numbers yet. We're just starting to track them. But this dashboard is going to share information on our infrastructure investment, the public Wi-Fi that's available, our computer equity network for getting computers sourced and refurbished and redistributed, and then also what we call our digital navigator program, which I can speak to later on in our time together. And so again, I can get in the weeds on this. I'll leave it there for right now. Happy to revisit it.
Oh, Matt, could I just interrupt you for a second?
Yeah.
We do have a question that came
Great.
across in chat. And let me read it to you and get your input. This is from Tina Hubert at 6 Mile Regional Library District, which is in the Metro East area. And she says, I have a question regarding infrastructure to get broadband throughout the state. Are there any guidelines being distributed to communities to encourage fiber being laid whenever there are road construction projects? I believe if there were expectations that fiber was part of a road construction, that this would help us get ready all across the state. Can it be part of a state road construction grant awards that fiber must be included, or is fiber now old school?
Great question. And so thank you for flagging that right now. First of all, fiber is not old school. Fiber is going to be with us for probably generations ahead. And that's because it is fully scalable to meet whatever bandwidth needs are out there. And so once you put fiber in the ground, you can make upgrades to the electrical components on either end of that connection, and you can go from 100 symmetrical service to a gigabit symmetrical service or 10 gig symmetrical service. The point is that fiber can scale. And so we're going to continue to see investments in fiber. What you're looking at with the state and federal investments around the country, I mean, proposed $50 billion or more in broadband, I would say 9 times out of 10, those dollars are going to go to fiber. And so what's great about fiber is that it does allow for connecting towers. And from those towers, you can have what's called point-to-point or point-to-multi-point wireless service. And so the point is, even fiber is technology flexible. And so you can have wireless or wireline connections to the home based upon that fiber connectivity. And so that brings us to the next question. Kind of this whole idea of dig once. And once you are in the road, tearing it up, are we putting conduit or fiber down? And the state's approach so far is that there is funding dedicated to this. There is a policy in statute. And so we're ahead of many states when it comes to being sophisticated about, making the most use of our infrastructure construction efforts and the investment that goes with it. But I will say this, I think that there's room for improvement. And I definitely think at the community level, it makes a lot of sense for local communities, especially those that have the discretion to add conduit installation. So conduit is basically what holds the fiber underground. Installing the conduit is really the expensive part, not necessarily blowing it with fiber, as we would say. And so if you can at least get that conduit in the ground, that's going to put our communities in the state in a much better position to have cost efficiencies moving forward if fiber is ever part of a future investment, or it could all happen at once. That's a great approach too. And so what I would say right now is we are working on kind of a 2.0 version of the dig once policy and approach in Illinois. It's something that it's been a priority from day one, but we've had a few priorities. And so we're looking this fall to make some headway on that. And I think it's really good for our local communities to be asking those questions and pushing all of us to be thinking about, again, this aspect of a holistic approach to infrastructure investment. And so I go on and on here, but I think that the simple answer is yes, this is something we'd like to see more of. And it's absolutely a good question to be asking anytime you see a road project proposed.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay. Any other questions at this point? Or Tina, do you have any follow-up questions you would like to ask? Okay, I think we're good. Thank you, Matt.
All right, great. Can move forward here, and this is a perfect kind of segue into our mapping that's available. And this I could spend an hour on. And so again, we'll just really keep it high level. But we spent from day one here, so this goes back to the fall of 2019, we started procuring a mapping vendor and doing research and data collection on mapping, but on also broadband data. And so Connected Nation is our mapping vendor. And if you're familiar with Education Superhighway, they have a collaborative agreement, a working relationship. And so we're working with both Connected Nation and Education Superhighway in Illinois. With Connected Nation, they're doing the lion's share of our mapping work. And you can, if you go to the that website, I'm sorry, if you go to our Connect Illinois website, and if you scroll down and you click on interactive map, it's going to take you right here. And so this is actually a screenshot of the map. It's since been updated. We've got a couple additional tweaks, aspects of this. In the upper right-hand corner, we actually have a speed test that you can click on and take. It'll tell you the speed at your location in real time. And that feeds back into a data set that we're creating in a mapping layer just based upon speeds that people experience versus what our provider community is telling us or what our field validation work is telling us. And so in any event, you get into the mapping and you can see in the upper right-hand corner, we've got a couple of tabs, access and statistics. If you scroll down, you can click on a couple of different tabs here, 100 megabit per second download, 20 megabit per second free version of that. And this will show you a map of where those service levels are available in Illinois. And wow, you can see there's big swaths of the state that don't even have access to 25x3 wireline service. And again, that 25x3, it's the Federal Communications Commission's kind of benchmark for basic broadband. Anything below that level, they say, that's not broadband. There's a lot of conversation at the federal level about increasing that level to either 50x50 or to perhaps 100x20. And so that remains to be seen. The point is, as bandwidth needs increase, the definition of broadband increases with it. And so the point here is we've got investments to make in Illinois. And our story is very similar to the rest of the country. In fact, we're better off on a kind of a per capita basis than most states around the country, certainly in the heartland. So if you look at the same map in that access tab in the upper left-hand corner, you scroll down and you click on mobile 5G and LTE. This will show you where that mobile wireless technology is available. And this isn't perfect, but nonetheless, you can see in the lower right-hand corner, you can see the legend, light purple versus dark purple. If you continue to scroll down, you can click on different technology types: fiber, cable broadband, DSL, fixed wireless, and the color coding in the lower right-hand corner with the different technologies. The darker the shade, that means the higher the service level that's provided with this technology. And this is a great kind of cross-section of where fiber is in Illinois versus maybe coaxial cable that our cable providers tend to use, or DSL, or fixed wireless. And if you continue to scroll down, you can click on density of providers, and you can see how much competition, so to speak, is out there in Illinois. And darker the shade, the more providers are operating in that area. And so this is another aspect of, I think, the challenge that we see around Illinois is many parts of the state might have one provider and they're sure to invest or upgrade the network. And that's why we're coming in with the Connect Illinois program. That's why we're seeing investments nationally, is we want to help providers that want to improve their networks and invest in modern technology. We also welcome the expansion of providers into new markets to make sure that all homes, businesses, community anchor institutions have at least one broadband provider meeting our goals. And again, our goals in Illinois, every dollar we spend, we want to make sure is resulting in broadband service that can at least provide 100 megabit per second down, 100 megabit per second up. If you can do that, you can probably do anything if you scale moving forward. And so the point is, we're investing for the long haul. Now, if you click on the statistics tab here in the upper left-hand corner, this will open up a trove of information from the American Community Survey. And in this case, it's at the county level, the availability of wireline broadband at the 100x20 level. If you click on any county, we'll click on Iroquois, and you can see the percentage of households with broadband at that 25x3 level. And then correspondingly, the number of households that are considered unserved below that 25x3 level within that county, almost 6,000 households. You can do that for any county in the state. You can scroll down on that statistics tab and you can look at school districts. All right, we've got a few more school districts than counties. You can zoom in and you can see Richland County School District, number one. The percentage that have that 100x20 wireline service, less than 2%. And you can see the number of unserved households, over 6,000. And so we've got some work to do. And the map definitely shows where the need is most urgent. And I should just mention, this map, it's interactive. And so if we were running through this in live time here with a live map, you could zoom in and you could see not just individual school districts or counties, you could see your communities, you could see streets within your community. And with the addition of the next data set that we're going to be adding, you'll be able to see individual housing units. And essentially, you'll be able to compare those housing units against broadband availability. And if you're a local community leader, you're able to say, all right, this is the part of my community that is not served, that needs investment. We need to work with our broadband provider community, or we need to chart some solutions of our own to extend broadband in our area. And so I'm just giving you kind of the view of the forest. You can really get down and look at individual trees, maybe even leaves of trees if you want. And then finally, I'll just mention there's a whole host of different geographic boundaries that you're able to click on. If you scroll past the access statistics tabs down to general, you can see different boundaries, whether it's counties, congressional districts. You're able to see how, legislative districts, township or precinct boundaries. It can help you take, I think, a more, I guess, granular view of what's happening. And then finally, if you bump over to the federal tab here, you're able to see a whole host of federal funding opportunities and where an announced Reconnect program, whether they're loans or actual grants, and where those took place in Illinois. And so with that said, that's bringing me to another resource we have at the Illinois Broadband Lab, a partnership with our University of Illinois and other higher education institutions focused on mapping. So the interactive map that I just ran through with folks, that's available on our Illinois Broadband Lab website. I can share that link here in a moment. We also have a bunch of static maps, PDF maps available right now at the county level. And so instead of having to go to that interactive map and kind of make the pre-selections and zoom in on your county, you can just scroll down, select your county, whether it's Adams, Alexander, Bond, or all the way through all 102 of them, and you can print out maps on the spot without having to do anything more than making a couple clicks. And here's what the map of Sangamon County looks like. We shared this at the STEAM Expo at the State Fair last month. We have one of these maps for every county of the state. We also have this same map at different service levels. This is the 100 megabit per second download, 20 megabit per second upload map. And if you scroll down here or look down here on the upper left-hand corner, the number of households that have this level of service, 90% in the county. But that still leaves over 9,000 households unserved in the county. And again, this is the story in much of the state where you see areas of relative population density, you'll see investment in broadband. Where you see more sparse populations, less broadband. And so we don't necessarily have to have fiber running down every county road in the state, or we don't necessarily have to have a wireless solution for every acre of land, but we certainly need to make sure our households, our businesses, our community anchors are connected. And so these maps help us start that conversation about where to target resources. Finally, I just wanted to make mention of a couple of initiatives that we're working on. And so in the next minute or so, I will wrap up my slides and we can kind of open it up for more Q&A and discussion. But because we have such a lean operation with the Office of Broadband, from day one, it's been important for us to make collaborative effort. And so one of them, well, most recently, digital divide and philanthropic support to make investments in 4 states in the Midwest that are poised to lead the way on broadband, whether it's infrastructure investment, focus on adoption and affordability, a focus on utilization, and also just building digital literacy skills. And so Connecting the Heartland is their initiative. And what they've been doing is helping us raise awareness about that emergency broadband benefit. Up to $50 per month, the federal government is subsidizing qualifying households in need on an income basis to sign up for broadband service. So if you're familiar with the Lifeline program, this is the new version of it, and it's $50 per month instead of $10 per month. So much more in line with real costs. And so this was funding that was a program that was created back in December of 2020. The infrastructure bill that's being discussed federally right now would include additional funding to continue this forward. And so the hope is that we're going to have continued effort at the federal level around broadband affordability that actually provides a level of subsidy to help households adopt. or sign up for broadband service. And so I could say a lot about that, but Connecting the Heartland is our collaborative partner in spreading the word and raising awareness about the emergency broadband benefit. They're also investing in what we're calling our Illinois Connection Corps. We have 4 folks who are recently graduated from college, kind of like a VISTA program or an AmeriCorps program, and they are going to be focused on community level engagement and focusing again on access, adoption, utilization, the 3 legs of that broadband stool, so to speak. And so Connecting the Heartland is helping us with awareness. They're also investing in boots on the ground in Illinois so that we're able to integrate programming and help our communities seize this moment, so to speak. Another collaborative partner that we have is PCs for People. They received a philanthropic grant back at the height of the pandemic to set up operations in 2 locations in Illinois, one in the Metro East region, Belleville, and then also a second location in Cook County. And what PCs for People does, I think they're among the probably most reputable computer refurbisher recyclers in the country. They're operating in about 6 states now. And in Illinois, they've got 2 distribution hubs. And what they do is they source used computers from public, private, nonprofit sources. They are certified to clean them, to refurbish them, and then they redistribute them on an equitable basis to households in need. And what's important is we are verifying eligibility of households that are receiving this equipment. They are tracking the impact of where the computers are going on a county by level, at a zip code level. And then we also have the assurance that the work is done right. They're certified at the highest level for data security purposes. And so PCs for People, because of that philanthropic support that brought them into Illinois, are helping us stand up our computer equity network. And so other organizations or partners that would like to be part of this computer sourcing, refurbishing, and redistribution effort are welcome to join us in that computer equity network. And so there are other redistributors in Illinois. We want to make sure they've got a seat at the table and are benefiting from this shared work. And so that brings us, I guess, to the last collaborative partner. I don't have a slide for them, but it's the Benton Institute for Broadband and Society here in Illinois. If you go to that newsletter link that I pointed you to, or if you're currently subscribed to our newsletter, the Benton Institute is based formerly in Evanston. I think now they've gone fully virtual, but the point is they are the best in the business when it comes into daily and weekly newsletter tip sheets on all things broadband. For the last year plus, we've been working on a bi-weekly newsletter, all the things that we're doing into hopefully an interesting and relevant form. And so check that out if you haven't. And so the last thing I'll say is our Broadband Advisory Council was set up in September of 2019 to help guide our Office of Broadband. And we had 5 initial working groups: access, economic development, education, technology, and telehealth. Did some great work in helping us form our strategic plan and set up our programming. Now we would like to launch 3 additional working groups focused on digital equity and inclusion, smart cities, and rural innovation. And these working groups, the whole idea here is to bring in more voices that are not currently on the Illinois Broadband Advisory Council, bring those to the table. And so if anybody on this call would like to be part of those working groups moving forward, again, the ones that will be active in the coming months: digital equity and inclusion, smart cities, rural innovation, please let me know. You can shoot us a line at broadband@illinois.gov for all things broadband, but certainly for this opportunity, shoot us a line, let us know if you're interested in contributing to a working group. And so with that said, all right, I'm done. Any additional questions? I really appreciate the chance to connect with you this morning.
Okay, this is Anna again, and I did get a question on the chat. Can librarians access the county level maps like you showed? And I'm assuming that they can. If so, can someone please share the link? The information in this presentation is fantastic. Thank you.
All right, I'm sharing the link right now. And so this is still in development form. We're working with University of Illinois, but the point is, I don't want to wait another week for this information to get out to folks. And so if you have an opportunity to check this out and you can share it, you can print the map, please don't hesitate to do so. And so I'm going to drop this link in the chat right now. We're calling it the Illinois Broadband Lab. Again, the site is not fully operational yet, but that's where our resources are, and I want you to have them. And so feel free to use that information. Just don't put the link in a newsletter yet, but you can definitely email it around if you'd like to.
Okay, great. Thank you. Now,
And again, the maps are yours. The maps are yours. They're for your consumption.
That's wonderful. Those will be so useful in so many ways. I have a question for you while we're waiting for some of our members to ask more questions. What does a library need to do to help bring this about? Like, we have a lot of small libraries where there's like only one person or maybe 3 people on staff, and they're in very poor communities where maybe even the municipal government doesn't have a lot of people on their staff either, but they really need these resources and they really want them in their community. So how can they poise themselves to be ready to help that happen?
Well, this is a great question. And I think the most basic information that I can give or advice I can give is lean into this opportunity. We likely will never see anything like this in terms of the federal investment, the state investment, the policymaker interest in the policy alignment towards making real, meaningful and lasting investments in broadband, and not just broadband infrastructure, but the infrastructure bill that's moving in Washington right now that we hope passes includes over $2 billion for broadband digital equity and inclusion, which brings us into, I think, one of the key things that our libraries do right now, but that we'd like to do more of, and that is digital literacy training. And so I think the traditional focus on public computing centers at libraries, I don't think that's going away. But as many of you have seen, firsthand, this. That's just the start of things. You get people in the library to use a computer, they have questions. How do I use the internet? How do I turn it on? How do I, find my benefits or apply for a job? You live this. And so I think what we need to do moving forward is develop a track of programming that's focused on essentially establishing digital navigators, the modern 21st century librarian who helps at that public computing center physically, but also has the capacity virtually to help, whether they're patrons in the library or folks, at home, use the internet, turn on their computer, and just as important, find other resources in the community, whether it's adoption assistance or technical help. I think that's really important, and it's an often overlooked aspect of the digital divide. We all understand where the need for making investments in broadband infrastructure, extending networks. We've got maps, we've made investments for collectively around the country for a decade plus. We also know, hey, the community survey tells us we've got 1 million households that don't have computing devices. So we know that's an aspect of the digital divide too. But what's less defined is the lack of computing skills, the lack of digital literacy know-how. And that's something that I really hope that through the investment in the infrastructure bill in digital equity, that we're able to stand up some meaningful programs. And there's some great organizations around the country.
Yes.
We've been talking.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, just had one of those computer reboots that he was warning us about in the beginning here, so he may switch over to his phone here real quick.
Yeah. Tina, I see your question, and I do have a copy of Matt's PowerPoint, and hopefully he will let us share that.
You sure can.
Okay, great. Thank you. We also have a question about a concern for, this is a great system, and somebody's wondering if, if there's a major hacking or attack of some kind, how does this affect the broadband coverage? I mean, this is from, let's see, Debbie at Wayne City, I think.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, I think that you're definitely seeing, obviously the threat of cybersecurity risks are out there. I think what we see in the public realm is, essentially these, these data breaches, and then the local government or the state government is essentially held hostage to pay a ransom, or else sensitive public information is going to be released, or the site crashes. And so that's the kind of cybersecurity threat that we've seen. I think in terms of like a network attack or something like that, we're certainly vulnerable in this country, and there are single points of failure in networks. That should not deter us from making investments in broadband. And frankly, the risks that we have today likely would not change, if we invested $500 million or $1 billion in broadband infrastructure. Those risks are going to be with us forever. And so I think we just have to be smart in how we engineer and design our networks so that we don't have single points of failure, and that we're all smart, taking personal responsibility when it comes to not clicking on the clickbait that can lead to those sorts of attacks. But I think that's an ongoing effort at the local, state, federal levels. I know our Department of Innovation and Technology is on it. They've invested a lot in cybersecurity. And so I would just say, don't allow that to deter us from making meaningful investments, to leaning into this opportunity. It's just going to be a constant struggle that we're always going to be grappling with moving forward as a society. And sorry, that's a really important topic, but maybe one for another day.
Okay. Now, the other question I have is, if libraries don't feel like they can do this on their own, but if they try to create some sort of regional, like you have all of these regions already broken down very nicely. Thank you. That makes a lot of sense. So if libraries want to get together and try to tackle this on regional levels, would you say that's maybe a sound policy for them to follow? Or do you have other, as I say, since we have a lot of small libraries with very few staff, but I figure if they can get together, that might make their impact more meaningful. Would you suggest that as a course for them to follow? Or
I think that makes a lot of sense. And so, the Department of Commerce Economic Opportunity, we have our 10, economic development regions. I shared that map earlier. If that works for libraries to organize under, great. I don't want to force, that template on a library system if it doesn't make sense. But I think our Broadband Ready program is really well positioned to work with libraries. And to the extent that all libraries in a region or certain libraries in a region would like to be active in that program, I think that additional organization and just kind of clear lines of communication and resourcing could materialize from that. And so I'm really open to how collaboration moves forward. I just think it makes so much sense given the need, the level of investments, the programming. If you've got any suggestions as a group, I am all in on working to find kind of a solution and kind of taking the next steps. But I count the Office of Broadband as an eager partner in that effort.
okay, so if librarians wanted to join in an effort in their region, is there someone they should contact to, so they're not just like reinventing the wheel?
Yeah. So what I would say is this. I think just thinking about this particular question right here on the go, I would say organize at the regional level. And if you are somebody who's interested in this, and you say, I'd like to talk to some of my peers in our region, shoot me a line and just say, hey, we're in, this part of the state. I guess technically it's region X, Y, or Z. We'd like to be part of some of your programming. And I think as the Broadband Ready program moves forward, we could easily integrate that level of library-specific organization into that program, just kind of organically. And if it makes sense to create something entirely new, we can do that. Otherwise, I think that there's a line of programming that could be mutually beneficial, both for our Ready efforts and also for our libraries. And so the point I'm trying to make is that seems like a good framework to try to set something up. And so we can just kind of take it, one region at a time. And it doesn't mean every library in a region has to be active, but if you've got a library in a region that wants to be part of this effort, let me know, and we can take next steps.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. This has been a wonderful program, very illuminating. You've shared a lot of really great information. I'm hoping that there are, plenty of things for our members to think about here too, and that we can get together and make some positive things happen throughout our system. And I appreciate your openness and willingness to work, and you just seem so open to doing this. I just love it. I love your enthusiasm. I love your vision. And I feel like, you're really ready to go with this, which is very encouraging. And so, as I say, I hope that, our librarians are inspired to join your efforts. And I think that some of us on the system level will be inspired to join in some of these efforts too. So it's very exciting. And I appreciate you taking the time.
Let's
there's
keep talking. This is the start of a conversation in my mind.
Yeah, I am hoping so. I'm just really very excited about this. So I think this is where we need to go. And I love the enthusiasm and the momentum that you have going right now. So that's great. If there aren't any other questions, I think I will let you go and enjoy your two lovely daughters. Earlier, before we went live, Matt had his two young, beautiful daughters wave to us, and they're just such cuties. So I hope you have a wonderful day with them. And thank you so much for sharing. And I'm sure you'll be hearing from very many of the libraries that were present today. Thank you.
I look forward to it. Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye. All right. Let me see if I can see my face here. Okay. Trying to get here. Oh, there I am. Okay. Now we're at that part where we have updates, and our first person to do the updates is I don't know if Greg, you're doing the updates, or if one of your lovely staff members are, but Greg is here, and the rest of the Illinois State Library are here to talk about updates.
Well, good morning, everyone. That was really a great presentation from DCEO, who we have worked with very closely on the Wi-Fi mapping project. He did show the slide, and in the e-news that will be going out in a few days, we're opening that back up, or DCO is, to schools, community colleges, all the partners and libraries included, to provide updated information on that map. So everyone should be looking for that information coming out from the State Library in the next couple of days. So it was very effective, and as you heard from him, it is still being utilized on a daily basis. And I'm pleased to say that libraries, at least initially, I've not looked at all of the layers yet, were the primary populators of that information for the state. So that's very good news, and it does show how reliant the state is upon the services provided by the public libraries. What's going on here at the State Library? Many libraries, 300 exactly, applied for funding from our office, from the American Rescue Plan Act. Our allocation of $4.7 million, including in that were 112 applications from Heartland. We're finalizing review of those applications so that we can make those awards effective. Our target is October 1, and I think we hope we're still on target to meet that. Regarding other upcoming things, I don't know that we have any school libraries present today in this meeting, but the school district library grant applications. Those are due October 15th. We're collecting those and we will begin review of those for allocation of that at the higher level again this year, which we're pleased about that. And thank you for sharing that, Pat. There's a link in there regarding the application process. Public library per capita grant applications. That information was just made present on the Secretary of State's website. Those are due again this year, are due this year on January 15. There was a bit of a delay last year on accepting those applications, but we believe January 15 will be appropriate because of the pandemic and many changes that were necessary. So that information is available. And again, that is being shared by the library development staff. And then finally, another funding opportunity, the Live and Learn construction grant applications will be due also on January 15 of 2022. So I don't know, Pat, if you can share that information as well. January 15, 2022, right. Oh, public library per capita. Oh, the link information is incorrect. I'm sorry, I was confused. I thought I said January 15th. So it is January 15th, public library per capita and the Live and Learn construction grant. So that's really all for today.
Okay, Greg, thank you so much. That was very helpful. And I know people have been wondering about the due date for the per capita. So that's really useful. Thank you. Does anyone have questions for Greg? Okay, I think that's it. Thanks, Greg. I appreciate you joining us today. Okay, I'm going to start the IHLS department's updates, and I'm going to turn it over to Ellen for administration. And today, because it's such a special day, she's also going to do membership as well. So she will cover administration and membership updates. Take it away, Ellen.
Hi again, everybody. And I neglected to say Leslie Bedner wasn't able to be with us this morning, but she does send her best to everybody. And I'm sure she'll be back for our October meeting. So you're stuck with me today. And as far as the administrative updates go, the most important thing that staff, and these are all tasks that involve the whole village of system staff, is preparing the system annual report, which will be submitted to the state library 2 weeks from today. So Leslie and her staff are working hard to make sure we have accurate and attractive information to submit to our colleagues at the state library. And I think we're on task to complete that well. As far as membership goes, it's fall. And whether we're in a pandemic or not, it's still conference season. So various system staff members will be participating or attending the Association of Rural Libraries Conference, which will be virtual. The Illinois Library Association Conference will be virtual. And the Association of Illinois School Library Educators Conference, which will be in person in Champaign at the beginning of November. Certainly take a look at the virtual conferences and see if they can't fit into your pocketbook. Learning to do things virtually has allowed people to participate in ways that they hadn't been able to before because travel and lodging and things like that wouldn't fit into their budgets. So take a look and see if it's something that might help you. We are working, Anna and I work particularly on the programming aspect of Member Day. So we have that lined up and we're really excited about what programs will be offered to those attending. So we look forward to that. And I think Danielle might talk about that a little more later on. And the other thing I want to say is when you get a newsletter from us, when you see information about welcoming new public library directors, we've got a lot of new library directors starting. So if you learn of one in your neighborhood or in your region or in your networking group, reach out to them and welcome them, because boy, I'd hesitate to put a number on how many people have started new positions during a pandemic, but what a challenge, right? So if you see any of those people, make sure to welcome them. Anna and I have begun to dip our toes into networking groups. So it's good to get out and see people. We've done it in person and we've done it virtually, and we're always happy to continue doing that. So don't ever hesitate to reach out with us, to either of us, about that. Anna, anything I'm forgetting? I think you're muted.
I'm sorry. Yes, no, I think you've covered it very well, Ellen. I think, it's just like a whirlwind of activity, but we are here and we're always happy to hear from you with any of your questions or concerns too. So yeah, that's all I have to say. Are you anything else you'd like to add, Ellen, before we
Not
turn
that
it
I
over?
can think of.
Okay, I am going to ask Danielle to give us a brief update on communications and what's happening in your world, Danielle.
Hello, everyone. So not much happening on our end, save for Member Day, which is, a big project that we're trying to work on. I will say that please keep an eye out to our newsletter and our Facebook page, because an update should be coming very, very soon about early bird registration. So just keep an eye open on that. And other big project is just trucking away at our new website and trying to get all of that situated. And hopefully we can have a better update for everyone as we get closer through that development stage of the website, because we're really excited to share that with you all. So yeah, that's about it on our end. Just some major projects we have going on and what we're trying to work through at the moment. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, Danielle. Now, Susan, I'm going to turn it over to you to talk about delivery.
Okay, great. Wow, and this isn't delivery, but what a fabulous opportunity. Oh my goodness. Anyway, so delivery is still, like you guys know, delivering. It's nice not to have to quarantine items. That has made a huge difference in all of our hubs and our processes that we do. So basically that's it. Does anyone have any questions for me about delivery? It seems weird just to say we're still just doing it, because normally we'll have something fun that we're doing, but it's gotten into a routine. I don't even want to say that. Never mind. I'll take that back. Okay. Well, thank you.
Well, thank you, Susan. I know it's like, I think all of our updates have been kind of low key, but we're working very hard and we're here and we're doing what we're supposed to do. And it's kind of unusual because we've always had like one thing or another happening and adjusting to the latest demands of COVID. So it's kind of nice just to have kind of a little quiet period. So now I am going to thank you, Susan, very much for your comments. I'm going to turn it over to our share folks. Cassandra, do you have anything you would like to share?
Good morning.
Dina.
This is Dina.
I'm sorry,
give the
Dina.
share report for Cassandra. I'm just going to briefly and real quickly go over a few share updates that we have. We are finalizing the information for the Solus app. We did find out there was an issue with the library location and hours. We do believe we have all of those corrections in place now. But if you are on the app kind of playing around and you notice that your library's hours and or the location is not correct, please let one of us know. We can get that corrected for you. As you probably know also that Microsoft is retiring Explorer at the end of next month. And this will most likely affect how you access Polaris. If you go to the Share website, which is share.illinoisheartland.org, you can find written step-by-step instructions to get your staff workstations set up. In the document, we do reference workstation logons a couple of times. If you're unsure what your library's workstation logons are, please let me know and I can send you some information regarding those. This is the perfect time we suggest that libraries make that switch to LEAP. Please keep in mind that Innovative is not retiring the existing staff client. LEAP is kind of what they consider their next generation project. Or product, sorry. At this time, LEAP is not fully integrated. It is scheduled to be fully integrated by the end of this year. So what that means is when we do our first upgrade in 2022, you should then see all the features that you currently know, love, and use on a daily basis, reports especially. Speaking of upgrades, we have scheduled our next upgrade to Polaris on October the 9th. In this upgrade, Innovative has really focused on LEAP and getting those staff client features integrated. One great feature in this upgrade is going to be for catalogers. So after that October the 9th upgrade, catalogers will be able to import and edit bibliographic records in LEAP. Currently for cataloging, you can only add item records. You can't make any changes to the bibliographic record. So after that October the 9th upgrade, you will be able to make changes to the bibliographic record. So we're really excited about that. And that's all that I have in my notes. So again, like I said, if you're on the Solus app and you notice your library's hours and location is not correct, please let me know and we can get those updated for you. Thank you so much. Anna, I think you're muted.
Yes. This is embarrassing because Dina is right across the hall from me and I didn't know she was covering for Cher this morning. So that's my mistake. I'm sorry. You know, we never talk to each other. That's yeah. We talk to each other all the time. Don't believe that. I do see some questions about the app. Jackie and Kathleen both asked about the app, and I'm assuming that's your app, not
that would
our.
be, yeah, it'd be the Share. I think we're getting ready to change the name of the app to the Share mobile library. I have an Apple phone, so if you can go ahead and download the app. When you go, I have to look to see what it's named because I forget. Let me pull this up real quick. If you go to your Apple store for apps, or I think I think they call it Google Play. If you search for Share Library, I think that's what it is. Nope. Sorry about that. Why would I be prepared? That's crazy.
I believe it's Share Library Catalog.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah, Share Library Catalog. And I get a couple different, in Apple, I get a couple different choices when I type in Share Library Catalog. On mine, the first one is a Quadratech catalog, which sadly, I know what Quadratech is. It's for 4x4 parts. But the second one on mine comes up as the Share Library Catalog. You can go ahead and download. It is working right now. You can place holds. We play around with it a little. And again, be sure and check out your library's hours and locations. We are still working on a few things with the cloud library, trying to get that all straightened out. And in the news part, we're still finalizing that, but it is up and running. You can go ahead and download it. So we do recommend you do that. We're really excited about it. We've had fun here playing with it. So it's going to be really fun for everybody. But again, just search for Share Library Catalog, and that should be the same for Android users as well.
I'm also going to answer Jackie's question really quick about if it's ready for patrons. It's not. It's still in the testing phase. We will, you'll be notified once you can push it out to patrons. But for right now, I think Share's just trying to work on getting everything tweaked and finalized so then you can promote it to your patrons. But for right now, it's just in a testing phase, just to make sure everything's correct and working as it should before we put a patron side.
Okay, that's great. But they can look for announcements about that as it happens. So we will let you know. Don't worry about that. We'll make sure you know. Dina's shaking her head. Yes, yes, yes. So now unless people have more questions or, you know, if anyone would like to share what's happening in their libraries, any great news you'd like to share, that would be great. Otherwise, I think we can probably end the meeting, but don't let me stop you from sharing. I mean, if you have something you would like to ask of us or something you would like to tell the group about your library and what's happening. I know there are lots of big, festivals and things, like I know Paris has the Shakespeare in the Park that's going on, and they have is it the Honeybee Festival or something like that? And I saw yesterday that I know Bobby has the Pork and Apple Festival coming up, and I find these things very interesting, and they all sound like fun. So, and it's good to be part of your community when you participate in those. So that's all exciting. So I will stop talking, and I'll give it a few seconds here to see if anyone wants to share either on chat or unmute themselves and tell us what's happening at their library. Otherwise, we can all be free a lot earlier than we expected. Okay. I encourage everyone to sign up for the newsletter, at least about the broadband developments across the state. And if you're interested in joining one of the groups, that would be fantastic. It's a good way to get involved and kind of make sure that libraries aren't left out of the discussion. We really need to be at the table. So I think that is it. And this will be recorded. I will share the link to this recording, and I will also share the PowerPoints. And as I said, I think this is so important that I'm going to share it with all of the directors. And we will take it from there. Okay, I thank all of you for joining us today. And Ellen just sent a reminder that Member Day is November 18th, and we do have Members Matter next month. It's going to be October 21st next month, and we have a very interesting speaker who will be talking about issues regarding the LGBTQ plus spectrum, and how to be, aware of, what exactly that means, and how to be allies and share information, and how that fits into the library world. The person that we have speaking, she is from the Indianapolis Public Library, and she's a librarian there, and she's been very active in the library in helping their staff understand these issues. And she's also, spoken across the country in several different conferences. So I think this will be a really great program. She seems like a very dynamic speaker, so I'm looking forward to it, and I hope you can join us on the 21st. I will let you go, and you all have a great day, and we'll be talking to you soon. There's not a director's chat this afternoon, but we will start those again next week. Okay, thank you. Goodbye.